And welcome in. We are underway. This is Three Guys Before the Game. Thanks so much for being with us at the 418th episode. And it is our Kansas State Penn preview. I don't think those two have ever been put together in the same line. It's our Kansas State Penn preview.
Did you do that just so we'd have a different title of the podcast?
No, I just thought of it on the fly, to be quite honest with you.
There's a shock.
Penn relays?
What's that?
Penn relays?
Penn Quakers, they're coming in off the heels of a victory over the Drexel Dragons. They're coming in here on Friday night. They're going to slow down that game. They're going to spread the floor. They're going to try to isolate.
Getting ready for their Big Five competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting ready for a little Ivy League action. Absolutely right.
With, who else is it? St. Joe?
Oh, St. Joe.
Villanova.
Villanova. All them schools in there. Three Guys Before the Game, brought to us in part by the Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever RV dealer in all of West Virginia. Visit them at burdettcamping.com. You might think, well, wait a second, RV season's over. No, it's not.
It's never over.
You can drive your RV to like a place that's warm, right? A lot of them head south. And then if you are an RVer and you're up here in this area, then now it's time for what? It's time for service. Get that thing tuned up and get it ready before you pack it up for the off season. Burdett Camping, located in Winfield and on the web at burdettcamping.com, BURDETTE camping.com. They have a promotion this week, don't they?
They do.
How's it going to work?
Well, I think it's already hit.
Excuse me?
I think it just hit.
It was a slam dunk.
In the last 30 minutes. Kirchhoff's been calling it a lock. I think the breaking news is, as we record, I think it is hit. Has it not?
Because the women's basketball team won.
And
the man's basketball team also won.
You needed 2 of 4. You have a women's soccer opportunity coming up, and you have a football opportunity coming up, but I don't even think you need them. It'd be nice, but I think 2 of the 4 have hit. Have they not? Women's basketball just in the last 30 minutes as we record.
On that?
No, you're right. It's fine. They won by 20 some.
So that's a $500 discount off a $1,000 purchase, correct?
Yes. $500 when you go in there and spend $1,000 on parts, sales, or service.
Congratulations.
So
that's the headline of the show.
You need $1,500 in parts. You pay $1,000, and you're basically getting $1,500 for $1,000. It's 50% off. It's a hell of a deal. That's what we bring you on this program, and it's only the beginning of things to come, because we've got some opportunities coming up here. They're going to be just doggone special. So, yeah, $500. It's in fact now. Parts, sales, service, Burdett Camping. Visit them at burdettcamping.com. You have to tell them you're a Three Guys listener or a Three Guys watcher, because that's getting big now. This YouTube thing's really taken off. Numbers are going up on YouTube on our channel, and people are subscribing, and people are starting to write to us and say, hey, I really like it on YouTube's.
Saw it on the YouTube.
Saw it on YouTube's, and they're putting it up like on big television, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 109-inch television.
Whatever it takes.
We got to get the filter now.
Oh, we're fine.
I need the filter.
No, you look good, Hop. For your age?
No, not really.
Never mind. Three Guys is also brought to us by Comax Business Systems, your full-service Konica Minolta dealer. Go to Comax Business Systems at comaxwv.com. They are your safety net if you're a business owner, and the net that they provide is on your data and on your IT. They can come in and give you that safety net feel. They'll come in, they'll do a free inventory of how you are lined up and set up, and they'll allow you to know where you're weak and where you're strong, and then they can help you. They go 24/7 with remote monitoring in your business, so you have that peace, and also they can manage your voice and your phone services as well. You know, it used to be cool, like when they announced the boxers, like before the fight starts, and they go like, 3-time heavyweight champion of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Well, if you're in the ring and you're going to fight Comax, they would go, 10-time ENX Magazine Elite Dealer of the Year. From Charleston, West Virginia in the red corner, it's Comax Business Systems. Yep, that's how it would work. That ring announcer gig's a pretty good gig.
You got it, but there's only certain people who can do it.
Well, the brothers, the Buffer brothers.
Was that who it is?
Michael Buffer.
They've got a lockdown on that gig.
Awesome. But, I mean, you could probably get regional work. You could probably. I mean, you're not going to get into Vegas anytime soon, but I get you. You call Jerry Thomas,
Get a little tough man
down there in Harrison County. You could probably get in there and start to get some regional work.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Nevin ought to look into that.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, Billy Nevin, put a tuxedo on him, put him out into the ring.
He could do it.
He's kind of busy through the winter, though, huh?
Yeah, he is.
PA announcer for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, he is. Award-winning. Like, he got PA
yeah.
Announcer of the World award.
Plus, he gets it, too, because he goes big when it's a West Virginia player, but I like it when somebody else goes, Howard for two.
That's
If
the
it's
best way
the
to
other
do it.
team,
You
which
like
is
it
the
when
best
you,
way.
when you deadpan the other team.
You got to deadpan
You
it
got to
completely.
deadpan the other
Yes.
team.
In fact, I think you should deadpan it a little bit more.
Yeah,
I don't think it's,
I don't even think you.
You want him to, like, whisper it?
No, I want him to say. I don't want him to say basket by. Just go, Howard.
exactly how I would do
That's
it.
like NBA.
That's exactly how I would do it.
Yeah.
You just go like, how?
I mean, so, no, say the name, but don't.
You mumble the name.
No, you don't know.
No, you just go like this. Go Kirchhoff.
No, say the name, but just don't. Just Howard.
I told you the time I met Dave Zinkoff.
Like the NBA.
Dave Zinkoff was the legendary public address announcer of the Philadelphia 76ers when they were at their pinnacle with Dr. J, George McGinnis, Bobby Jones, Doug Collins, Henry Bibby, Lloyd World Be Free, Caldwell Jones, and he would do he was off the chart. And so his thing was like
guys right there.
well, they won a world's championship.
I would think with that group.
So he would do the introductions, and as Dr. J was, so he would go like, wherever, and then you had Daryl Dawkins, who didn't go to high school, so he'd give the high school.
Didn't go to college.
Thunder.
Went to high school.
Yeah, didn't go to high school. And so then when Dr. J come out, he'd go, so he had that Philadelphia, and then he'd go, and 6'6" forward from the University of Massachusetts, Julius, and he would hold it up there. So I met him at Franklin Field when I was a senior in college, and he was doing the PA of Temple, Syracuse. And he comes into the booth, and you remember Franklin Field's booth.
Yeah,
it was like 1952, dusty, dirty.
52.
Yeah. 1862. They had raw logs.
All due respect to one of the great
And so they go,
historical
fireplace
venues.
in
They
the
go,
corner.
hey,
Great
man.
historical venues.
They go, hey, man, this is Dave Zinkoff. So you're like a little college kid, and you go like, oh, it's Dave Zinkoff, right? It's Dave Zinkoff. And you go like, how you doing? I go, hey, how are you? And he goes, never better. I love that. Zinkoff. That was the same broadcast when I was in college, so I wasn't doing the game, but I was like the producer or whatever we were doing, the student station, right? We dropped our crowd mic down from that stupid camera deck right onto a seat, which was like about 12 feet below us. So we're doing the game. Syracuse is getting killed by like Temple. It was kind of like that thing, right? Syracuse hadn't turned it yet. So third quarter, you're just doing the game. And all of a sudden you hear, is this on? Someone picked it up. Middle of a play. Is this on?
Well, you stupid. What are you doing dropping it on a seat? Just put it out the window.
Well, there's like 9 people there. You didn't think anyone was going to get near it.
These are our seats. We're going to sit in our seats, ticketed seats.
So I just like to say, how are you? Never better. All right, here we go. World champ.
Oh, we started?
World champion. This is warm-ups are over. Now let's.
Speaking of, is this on?
Is this on?
Story of this. That's a story of this show. A lot of people go, do you guys know you were on? Did you? Anyway, we'll get into that later. West Virginia, Kansas State on Saturday. It's Seniors Day, which means Senior Day, which means it used to mean something. That used to mean that the players were going to play their last game on that field. Now, Senior Day means maybe not sure. It could come back. It doesn't. There's a chance it could happen. Not exactly sure.
It should be called MLGD, maybe last game day. MLGD. Don't know. Might be back, might not. Might go someplace else and play.
Yeah.
Who knows? Might come back for your 7th year.
Might be. I think they should just call it the might be game. Might be. Might be my last game.
I like it. You get Dante twice.
Dante gets...
Cheered for Dante last year.
Do they get...
Brought it back.
In football, do they give them the jersey right on the field in the frame, or is that just a basketball thing?
No, used to, I thought. Didn't it used to be out there, like on a stand? Parents got it. I don't. Only did it for 20 years. I don't remember.
So anyway, Neil Brown said this week, don't take anything from who goes out there and who doesn't go out there. So really, he says, I tell them all.
Trying to get ahead of the inevitable stories that would come out.
Exactly. Some might run out and just keep going.
Right to the hospital. He just said, I just tell them if they've got any doubt, if not sure, maybe they are, maybe they're not, just go out. Just go ahead and do it. Then we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks. So anyway, Senator has one of those wood pellet stoves, and he uses that for energy for his computer. He uses that as an energy transfer station. And so he's worked like 100 extra pounds of pellets this week and getting his computer up to speed for the analytics that he's about to drop on us in the matchup between West Virginia and the Wildcats of Kansas State. Senator, what do the numbers say about the Mountaineers and KSU?
So I've got a couple matchups I want to keep an eye on. But before we do, let's just talk big picture for a second here, because we've been saying it throughout the year, and it's been coming to fruition here over the last 3 weeks. We keep talking about these road splits, West Virginia home versus away. It's like it's two different teams. So if you go back and take a look at some line movement, Baylor comes in here, 7-point favorite-ish, 7.5 touchdown favorite. West Virginia not only covers, wins outright. TCU comes in here, similar point spread on that one. West Virginia in that game probably could have won it somewhere along the line, but it's not like it came down last second. Should have covered, Hoppy. Fourth down. Could have taken a knee if you're TCU, decided to throw it into the end zone, touchdown, change the point spread there. So you were right there with TCU, a top 10 team. Last week, similar thing. Oklahoma comes in, 7. That thing moved to 8.5 by the time it kicked off. West Virginia not only covers, but it wins it outright. Here comes Kansas State. You want to guess what the point spread is?
I saw it was 6.5, 7.
7.5 now. Yeah, start 6.5, so it's right in that same range. I think this team is right up there. As we talked all TCU week, I thought that was a great situation. West Virginia couldn't cash in. This is a good K-State football team.
Yeah.
They come in here, much like TCU, they come in here and present some real challenges. Injuries are key for them, and the first place we'll start, and this is one of the matchups, Adrian Martinez, the transfer from Nebraska, out. Might not play the rest of the regular season. Will Howard in. Let's have a Will Howard conversation for a second. Are you ready?
Can we get the Will Howard that played here as a true freshman?
Correct. That's what I was just about to say. You got him as a true freshman, Hop, through 3 interceptions, and he was not ready to play, as most true freshmen are not. West Virginia dominated that day. Different dude coming in here now. 9 touchdown passes, 1 interception in the 3 games of action that he's got that have come lately with Martinez out. So normally you would say advantage West Virginia, the starter is out, because that K-State offense was humming with Martinez and Deuce Vaughn running the ball. Martinez wasn't turning it over either. They looked really good. But Howard's come in. They like him quite a bit. He's performed well. So that's the first matchup. You're getting Will Howard, who's going to throw it more than they would have asked Martinez to throw it against this West Virginia defense that we know has struggled against the pass for most of the season, although the last couple of weeks, last week included, they did better. Let's take a look at this, though, Hop. You ready? Let's do some PFF grades here. So first of all, West Virginia's coverage unit still grades as the worst in the Big 12. So that's obviously a concern. That's no surprise. That backs up what we've seen with that back end of the defense. But here's what we want to watch. K-State's pass blocking grade is 6th in the Big 12. And it's going against a West Virginia pass rush that's graded 8th in the league. So we've talked. Part of the coverage problems have been related to you're not getting enough pressure up front. Although, again, last few weeks, maybe you're starting to see that a little bit more. K-State's worst pass block grades of the year have come against Texas Tech and Baylor. Okay? Mm-hmm. But here's what should concern you a little bit. Tech has the 2nd best pass rush grade in the league. Baylor has the 4th. So 2 pretty good pass rushes have caused problems for that K-State offensive line. Can West Virginia? It's rated significantly lower. Can West Virginia find a way to get pressure on Will Howard? You've got to make it difficult. If he's going to be able to stand back there and throw it, obviously you've got big problems. Yeah. That's your first question. Level of confidence there? You concerned about that?
Oh, yeah.
Struggling coverage unit, struggling pass rush.
Yes. Also,
and they're going to keep you off balance because Deuce Vaughn's going to be able to run it.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn can run it, and Deuce Vaughn can catch it.
Yeah, he can.
So that's a problem, too. So they stretch the field laterally with Deuce Vaughn, as a very good receiver, right?
Yes.
So you got to worry about that.
Big time.
So
we had Wyatt Thompson on, their play-by-play voice last night on Sportsline. You listen at all?
I'm sorry, when's the show on?
6:06 until midnight. So we talk sports first hour, then we just play old music.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you like a 90-year-old? Did you bring coffee in a thermos and you're pouring it while we're on the air? He was asking, like you got a long road trip ahead of you? You got your CB radio ready? Got my thermos of coffee? Where's the plastic cup that goes on top of the thermos?
I'll tell you something.
Where's your cheese sandwich?
What's he doing?
That's a relaxed show.
2 bottles of water under the front seat in case I get stalled on the road with my CB.
Give me a CB radio. Well,
he's got a thermos of coffee,
I
Kirchhoff.
know, it's just like it's normal.
He teases you about a coffee clatch. We just became a coffee clatch. He came on here with a thermos of coffee.
I can't say enough about the fine folks at Grant County Schools. I went there and spoke recently, and they gave me this thing. Keeps everything hot. Well, here's the deal, dude.
Hot things hot, cold things cold. How do it know?
I keep 3 cups of coffee in this thing. So I don't want them cold. And so I just keep it in here. You guys are just chatting. I just want to have a little coffee. I got a late night.
Have no issue with the old man thermos. Got no problem with that. I was taking issue that we're doing a program. Not live, of course, taped, but doing a program. Doing a program. You just broke out a thermos of coffee and just poured it on the set?
Well, you're giving numbers. They're not taking a shot of me. I'm just like drinking my coffee.
But you were on camera. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if you pay attention to the monitor. You were on camera when you were pouring it.
That's good coffee.
This show never ceases to amaze me.
It's good coffee.
He just went thermos.
He went thermos, but also the way he did it, just like asking a question and casually pouring, like it was perfectly normal that he would have a thermos of coffee.
I'm a little hyped up.
I'm telling you, he's got a cheese sandwich there somewhere.
No, I had a Venti Starbucks earlier on my way into work. I have my 2 cups here. I work at night. I got to keep going, dude. You get to go home, crash a little bit. I'm up.
Yeah, you're right. I'm only doing a show with your name on it tonight.
Well,
you're right. He just said I'm not working doing his show.
No. Is that open? Why don't you have an open with your name on it?
Only been here 10 years. I think when I'm here 20, we get one of those.
Okay.
Why don't you make that change, operations boy?
All right. How many cups of coffee will you have during the day?
And put
when
that
will
in
you
your back
stop?
pocket?
Oh, this is it.
When will you cut yourself off?
This is done. As soon as this is done.
I said that like that was a ridiculous question, as he has a thermos with him. Oh, no. All right, you want me to continue? You ready? You focused now? You caffeinated?
I didn't start this whole tangent. You guys did. Go ahead.
No, you definitely didn't by opening a thermos of coffee. You definitely didn't start it. All right, here's what surprised me. The offensive numbers didn't surprise me. The fact that West Virginia's going to have trouble matching up potentially with their offense, that didn't surprise me, right? K-State's been doing that. Here's what surprised me, guys.
I like this.
I've been going into this thinking, okay, Garrett Green was super successful last week. The offensive line was super successful, lined up, punched him right in the face. 3 of the last 4 drives were all 12 plays or more, including that final 15-play, 6.5-minute drive where you just bled the entire clock out. I mean, that was textbook. That was very Army triple option-esque, right?
Yes.
We just got the ball, going to jam it right down your throat until the
clock,
time runs
score,
out, kick the field goal, see you, get on the bus.
Yeah.
We got it. Tremendous. But you probably can't. I mean, Oklahoma's run defense is not very good. You can't do that to Kansas State. Very solid.
You're absolutely right.
Well coached. You're not going to be able to do that against Kansas State. So I looked at the numbers. Disclaimer, Hoppy, you still may not be able to do it to Kansas State. But the numbers,
but what?
Pro Football Focus specifically, I found this. Kansas State has a worse run defense grade than Oklahoma does.
Get out of town.
That surprises me.
Kansas State has the second worst tackling grade in the Big 12 per PFF.
I'm intrigued. Very intrigued.
Kansas State, we talked about line yards the last few weeks, just kind of a measure of offense and defensive lines and how they do and their measurement. K-State 111th nationally in average line yards defensively.
Wait a minute, but they're only giving up 17 points a game, so they're getting stopped somewhere.
Yeah, they're getting stops. The people are running. So I think some of that's the numbers get thrown off a little bit because they've had some success running on people. They've had others, but most of their defensive success, Hop, comes from third down. They've been very good on third down. And when they're good on third down, that's stopping, which, again, you saw that with West Virginia's defense, right? Held Oklahoma to 1 of 11 on third down, didn't put up a lot of points, couldn't get that offense in gear, even though it moved the ball at times. So that's just interesting. That maybe opens the door a little bit here that is this one of the games maybe you can get Kansas State to struggle against the run some.
That's really interesting. So the reason I'm looking back here, so I wanted to see what they did last week against Baylor because Baylor's got a good running team, right? They can run the football. They held Baylor to 103 yards, but Baylor only carried it 23 times. They threw it 38 times.
Because they were getting drilled.
Because they were getting drilled. Exactly right. So they were able to get Baylor out of what it wanted to do, which is run the football. But they did average, to your point, they averaged 4.5 yards per carry. Okay.
Baylor was just 4 of 12 on third down and 0 of 3 on fourth. So K-State, again, very good on that third and fourth down.
Yes.
Locked it up.
Okay, that's
including
interesting.
a big win. So that's interesting. Here's one other one. Watch this number. Because we just talked about last week, West Virginia ran it, West Virginia ran it, West Virginia ran it. Garrett Green goes over 100. You ran it at the end. They knew what was coming. But this stat was surprising, and you just move past it because it's a win, so you don't focus on it. But 30% of West Virginia's carries against OU were stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Because remember early we kept watching, going, why can't you run on these guys? What are you doing? That's a high number there, Hop. So that would be considered, that's what's stuff rate. Stuffed at the line or behind the line of scrimmage. That was a big stuff rate for that particular game, but you still found a way to win and run it late. Kansas State is 104th nationally in defensive stuff rate. So they haven't been stopping people at or behind the line of scrimmage as much. So I'm not predicting you're going to go out and run for 200. I'm not predicting Garrett Green's Offensive Player of the Week again, but I guess this is more, I'm talking to myself more than anybody else. That surprised me. Those numbers surprised me. I assumed this would be a top level of the conference defense across every metric because they're winning so much and playing so well. Might be a chance to run it potentially here, Kirchhoff.
Well, that indicates certainly some vulnerabilities. Those are excellent stats, but I guess I look at the larger picture of points they've given up, plays they've made defensively. I mean, they got 13 sacks, 23 sacks, 13 interceptions. So they're making plays to stop the other team, right, and put the other team in a difficult position. They got Felix coming off the edge. Felix.
Yeah.
Felix, I forget how to say his last name, but number 91, I think it is.
Sure. Well,
coming off the edge.
Hang on a second. Well, let's take a look at the
pronunciation. He's a problem.
His name is Anudike, which is very easy.
Yeah.
Anudike Uzama. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Anudike Uzama.
Isn't he 91?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, 91.
Fantastic player. Semifinalist for the Bednarik. Semifinalist for the Lombardi. Semifinalist for the Lott Award. He's a good, as Don Nealon would say, he's a good player.
Now, I tell you what else they have. And maybe this factors into these defensive stats, Brad, is that, and you'll laugh at this, they have a good punter.
Why is that funny? That's huge.
Well, Ty Zentner is his name. It actually is taking over the field goal kicking duties, too. He has 20 punts inside the 20 and 13 punts greater than 50 yards. So that gives you, what's that give you? It gives you field position, makes teams drive a long distance. Contrast that with Oliver Strauss having a great year, 16 punts inside the 20 and 7 more than 50. So they're able to flip the field when they have to kick.
Yeah, I mean so what they are is
they're solid. They're solid.
They're very solid.
Even though Bill Snyder isn't there anymore, they still look the same. They're old school West Virginia. That's how Don Nealon would win, right?
Right.
They just they do enough offensively. They like to run the football. They like to keep the ball. They like to play solid defense, keep it in front of them, wait till you make a mistake, get the ball back, good special teams, flip the field. It's not really super sexy and fancy. It's not going to win. Hey, we're going to spread you out and play 3,000 snaps at the end of the game. It's just old school football, and they still do it.
But here, they're an interesting team, though, because they've played both ways here. Listen to some of these scores. They beat Oklahoma 41-34.
Right.
Gave up 34 points.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, they beat them 37-28.
Here we go.
But then they get Iowa State. It's 10-9. It's a slugfest. Right. But we know about Iowa State's offense. TCU, they lost to TCU 38-28. Shootout there. People are putting up points. I know it's TCU's offense. Come back against Oklahoma State. Kicked him right in the face, punched him right in the mouth. 48-0.
With Will Howard.
with Will Howard.
But he had like 4 touchdown passes or something, right? And
Then back to a shootout against Texas, 34-27. Then come back against Baylor, 31-3. So there's been teams that have broken through and scored points, and then when you haven't scored points, though, you've really not scored points. It's two extremes there almost against them.
And they lost to Tulane.
Yeah, they did very early.
It was very good, though. Tulane's having a heck of a year.
They are, but you shouldn't lose to Tulane at home.
No.
Okay.
So last year, they had a return for a score and blocked a punt. That was the difference in that game. 34-17 final score last year. And those two huge swings. So my point is this. If you do that on Saturday, if you lose special teams like that, chances are you get the L. If you're able to either be neutral, a washout or a draw on special teams, or make a special teams play, then obviously you're going to be right in the mix to win this game.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's just this is one of those, and you can't handicap some of those turnovers and the special teams and all that. But we've seen West Virginia need that to pull off some of these upsets, right? The Baylor, well documented. The return by Sam James at the end of the half, plus the fake punt. It has to be some non-traditional weird stuff.
Yes.
The challenge is, like you said, with a Bill Snyder coach team, it's the same with Kleiman. They just don't have a lot of cracks on the special teams. They're nationally? 5th in turnover margin. So this is rarely one of those programs that then as a team gives you mistakes back. That's the challenge of beating them because they don't beat themselves as much as some others.
Aren't they like plus 11 in turnovers? I mean, something crazy. I think they're way up
nationally.
there.
Yeah.
Hoppy, you're exactly right. They are plus 11 on the season, which makes them first in the conference and 7th in the country.
See, that's scary.
Well, that's what makes that's what separates teams when they have good years and bad years. So and we also know that stat is next year they'll regress. So what next year, Brad, the stats say they'll be minus.
Or back to even.
Or back to even.
Yeah, it's turnover luck, and it's yes, you can create turnovers at times, but a lot of times it's the luck of a weird-shaped ball. So you generally balance yourself out.
Where's West Virginia?
On turnovers?
Dead last in the conference,
right?
-7 and -7 and 117th in the country.
Which is not a surprise. There's very few teams at the top that have lost a bunch of games and very few at the bottom that have won a bunch. So
what I like is the fact that against Baylor, K-State played extremely clean and well. So it's hard to do that in back-to-back weeks and on the road twice. Now, can you? Sure you can. But chances are they're not going to put together 2 A-plus performances in back-to-back weeks. It might be an A. It might still be a B-plus performance. But chances are that they're at that same level of efficiency that they displayed last week in Waco. Probably not. So where can you catch them in that middle?
Well, Tony, that's a great question because if you and Brad's stats are insightful, it shows that they're not perfect, certainly, but if they're on or even close to on, they're solid in all 3 phases of the game. Okay, so you have to get them. They got to give you a breakdown somewhere for whatever reason, But that's been the aberration as opposed to the rule for them.
Well, and here's another aberration, and it speaks to their consistency. Go back to the PFF grades for a second. There's only 2 schools in the Big 12 that have had a better than 70 grade in every offensive performance this season except one, K-State and Baylor. The one they did was against Texas in one of their losses. Every other team, TCU included, has not had that same. Again, that's one source and it's one set of numbers, but it speaks to the consistency that Kansas State's put forth this year.
What can we or should we take anything away from the fact that they'll be playing without their starting safety? They use 3 safeties, which is scary because so does Iowa State. And you saw how West Virginia just offensively was putrid against Iowa State. Kobe Savage is out with an injury. He was the Big 12 Newcomer of the Week against Oklahoma. And on the season, big numbers, 58 tackles, 3 behind the line, 3 interceptions with a forced fumble. But he's out this week. So to me, that certainly doesn't hurt you if you're West Virginia. But the biggest question that I have is, can you turn yourself into a 180 based upon – now, some teams play versions of this defense, but it gets a little bit scary when you think back to that Iowa State game.
Here's the difference. If those numbers aren't lying to us, if you're able to have some success with no stuff rate. I mean, Iowa State just wouldn't let you get off the line. They did stuff you. If you can run it a little bit on this K-State team, which those line yard stats indicate that you can, if you can start to run it a little bit, now let's look back at Garrett Green. Now you have some success. You can get him on the edge in the perimeter, hopefully, which is what you couldn't do against Iowa State, which is what you have to do against Iowa State to beat them. Because why? You've got to force one of those safeties or two of those safeties down into run protection, run stoppage. Then you can start throwing. So the two-pronged approach here is when Green is in, can you run it? Can you run it on the perimeter? And then can you throw it if you get those safeties to drop down? It's a similar theory to what you did against or wanted to do against Iowa State and couldn't make it happen.
Which then brings up the next question.
Oh.
Who takes the snaps? Who starts?
Both.
Who takes the snaps?
Go ahead.
Well, want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Brad, you got me thinking about this because if you just go on last week's performance, you would say that Garrett Green earned the start.
Fair. Had a great day. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, so how do you not start the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week? However, do you go ahead and say, no, we'll start JT Daniels, see what he can do, and then bring Green in, which is, I think, what you're talking about.
What do they like about Green? What did everybody say about the game?
Comes out, gives him a lift.
Gives you what?
Gives you a lift.
Gives you a lift. So if you make a basketball analogy, it's almost like that got first guy off the bench.
Right.
And you've seen Huggs do this for years. Keeps a starter because it's just consistent. The guy knows he's going to start. He knows what it takes to get ready to start the game. And then you bring somebody in off the bench, which is not an easy role. But that's been Garrett's Green role. He knows how to come in off the bench, right?
Right.
So I don't know what he's going to do. The answer to that question is I don't know. We don't know, and Neil Brown's not letting that out because I want Kansas State to know, and he's just going to keep it internally, and you'll unveil it. It would seem to me, I could be dead wrong, and he may say, okay, Green, you've earned a chance to start. It would seem to me you would keep it rolling like it is. Let Daniels start, see if he can do anything, and if he can't, go to the same thing he did last week and bring that spark in off the bench and try and generate something.
And live through the boos that you will get when JT Daniels starts.
Whatever. I mean, people have been on Neil for 3 weeks. You think he cares about that, huh? No. He's going to do what he thinks to win. Yeah, try and win the game.
Tony?
I like Brad's thought on that. I don't know what Neil's going to do. Neil also brought up Nico Marchiol. Said it might go 3. Now, I don't know if he's just
I think he threw that in there just
to jack Chris Kleiman a little bit and say, here, go get some go get some video from Nico, senior high school.
What are you going to do at quarterback? Well, Nico's looked good.
Yeah.
Plus we got Crowder.
So
I play him too.
I completely, I can easily buy into Brad's thought process. Yes, you will get fans upset at the start of the game because they're going to go, wait a second, Garrett Green just led you to a victory last week. Why isn't he starting? Well, to Brad's point. So you put JT in there, and obviously he has really struggled of late. You find out where he is in his, does he take what happened last week and say, okay, I get it, I haven't been playing well, and goes out there and starts to throw the way that he did earlier in the season, and you go okay, this is good. Garrett's still going to play, but now we got him back on there. And if he does not perform well, you go, okay, that's fine. Garrett, pick up where you left off last week.
In a role that he's comfortable with.
Yes, I can see that. That makes sense to me because do it the other way around. You start Garrett.
Who hasn't,
and it doesn't go well for him, and then you bring JT out with the risk that it doesn't go well for him. Well, guess what?
You're committed.
Which has been the pattern.
Yeah, which is now you're double screwed.
Yeah, because now you don't have anywhere else to go.
Where do you go?
It's the total Huggs mentality of basketball, and coaches do this in basketball. Basketball coaches sometimes their best players don't start because they want to get that catalyst off the bench, which is going to change things. And so Garrett Green may be that change guy. Again, we could be totally wrong. Garrett Green might start the game, but I could see this argument having validity.
The other part, if you take what Neil Brown's saying, not just as trying to not give K-State any information, but evaluating it during the week. I mean, what's JT Daniels look like during the week?
Yeah, right.
To Tony's point of, is he bouncing back? Did he come out and he's throwing it crisp and he's hitting people in stride so that when Neil and Graham Harrell talk, they go, okay, dude's back. Here he goes. Whatever's been wrong is not wrong now. Or do they say, it still looks off a little bit? So that may change everything I just said. And you say, all right, Garrett Green's got to start.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Could argue on both sides there. But just if all things being equal and JT looks back to what he had looked like before, I think there's some logic in the spark factor there.
Text questions are coming up. Anything else for the good of the order? Hoppy, anything you'd like to offer? You got a big speech coming up here. Hoppy brought us into the studio and castigated us and said, here's the rider on my contract. I must be out of this studio by X time because he has a major speaking engagement.
I don't. That's not.
Did you prepare for the speech?
I have notes.
How long are you going to go? How long do they want you to go?
I go 15.
Oh, 15's nothing.
I know, and I thought about you because you don't sweat the details. You go in there and you go. I have to.
Why, dude? Why do you say that? You go 2 hours without a script.
You think I don't prepare?
You do, but you go 2 hours. So listen, you prepare to go 2 hours, which means you could go 15 minutes like blindfolded.
Never tell you the story about the preacher who was asked to give the prayer at the legislature?
Haven't heard this.
Haven't heard this?
First I've heard of this.
And I asked the preacher, this is close to what actually happened. I'm embellishing, of course. But the preacher was, I asked the preacher, I said, what are you going to say? And he said, well, God will speak to me and will give me the words.
Right.
Okay. All right, fine. So the preacher gets up there and hymns and haws and can't get it together and finally just says, amen. And I saw him later. I said, I thought that God was going to speak to you. He said, he did. He said, you should have prepared something. So prepare. Right, Brad? You prepare. You're the master of preparation.
I've said many times, if the spectrum is literally what's up here on the dais, I skew more in your direction. I am not able to do what he does.
No, Tony can riff. He can go. I got to prepare.
I will say.
No, you prepare. I know.
I have not said this publicly. Worked at multiple Division I institutions. When I first got here, like my first few years of working with him, he was the absolute best guy to work with. Loved the guys at the other places. They were wonderful guys. But you had to have it pretty scripted out, and you couldn't screw your script up, right? So it's extra prep. With him, after about the first few times I gave him a script that he went totally off of and came out, it sounded great. I just stopped doing it. Here's what we need to do today. We're going to do this. You can say this. Just okay.
Organic.
Got it.
Like the Musburger story.
Got it. It saved me a lot of work.
Yeah.
Didn't have to script things out. Just said, here's what we're doing. Go, handle it.
Here's the deal, man. Prepared speeches just suck. How many times you go to events and someone goes, thank you very much for being with us today. As an organization, we are delighted to be with you, and we look forward to what the future may bring.
He's doing what he always does. He's doing what he always does. Go ahead. He's doing what he always does. That doesn't mean just because you prepare that you're going to read.
No, I'm not criticizing him. I'm saying when I'm at an event and someone gets up and reads off of a page a speech, it's like, seriously? I hate that.
Well, that's not debatable. You're 100% right. That's not debatable. That's not what he's going to do.
No. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm talking about a different topic. We're off on a different topic. But I'm just saying I don't like when people read speeches. I don't like it.
Okay, I got a speech. If I'm giving a speech, I'm prepared and I have a script, and I may be working off that.
Wait a second. When you go speak, when you go speak to like the Chamber of Commerce of a county, you literally have every word written down.
I write the speech.
Oh no.
But
that doesn't mean you're going to read the speech.
No, I'm not reading. Yeah. I'm delivering.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I tell you one other story?
Sure.
I've told you this before.
Yeah.
There was a preacher at the legislature once.
Podcast. Do whatever you want.
Okay. So I told you this, the commencement speech at West Virginia Wesleyan a few years ago.
I remember you did it. You named an honorary doctorate, right? You have it in your office.
Which is another story too.
Oh yeah, they weren't sure about it, were they? They wanted it back after they gave it to you.
That's a better story.
What happened?
They gave out 2 honorary PhDs.
Right.
And I was the second one. So the first one was our first honorary doctor is Tony Caridi, a medical doctor who just returned from Africa where he's worked with people and he's given
saving
vaccines.
lives.
He saved 1,000 lives.
Sure.
And people are weeping. It's wonderful to get
helping people live.
Helping people live.
Helping people.
Hoppy talks
around the world.
Then
our second recipient's a talk show host. And I think a friend of mine was on the stage, and he stood up because he felt bad. Like, help the young man. But I gave the commencement address, and I had been invited to, so I delivered the commencement address, and the guy who invited me came up and said, that was one of the best commencement addresses we've ever had. I said, thank you. You like what I said? He said, no, it was 9 minutes long.
Exactly right, dog.
No one ever asks you if you will speak longer. Although
Absolutely.
that doesn't apply to our podcast, obviously, but
Hey, you taught me that 100 years ago. You go like, dude, keep it brief. So like, here's what else.
we don't do that here. But
It really pisses me off.
what?
Let me tell you what pisses me off. Because this is free form, so there is no time limit. What enrages me,
Okay.
when you go to an event and they say, we need you to speak X number of minutes.
Right.
I go like, got it. They say like when I was in the West Virginia Broadcasters Hall of Fame, they said, I think they said 7.
Oh, wow.
They went at 7. I went up there, put my phone down, and started the thing when I walked up there. And regardless of where I was going to be done at 6:55 seconds, and I'm off the stage.
Right.
Okay? I always do that. Why? Because I host a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And people get up, and I know they say, you have 6, you have 4, you have 3, you have 8. And the worst day of my life is when that recipient when that recipient goes up to the podium and doesn't have anything.
Right.
I go, oh crap. It's going to go one of two ways. And invariably, they don't know what they're going to say. I have no notes, and it goes over, and they're hemming and hawing. I'm thinking like, get your ass off the stage. That's rude because there's a specific reason why they tell you that. Get it done.
The words you never want to hear when you're in the audience from a speaker is, I didn't prepare anything. I'm going to speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Like,
done. Over with. It's bad.
Okay,
you know what
I'll
else?
get
You know what
back
else
to
is happening in these events? New thing, like people forgot that there's paper. They go in there and they have it on their phone. Invariably, the font type is like 0.5. And they get on there and they can't see it. And then I'm going like, which invariably leads to this comment. I've only used it a few times. So someone goes on there, supposed to speak 6 minutes. They speak 16. Everyone in the crowd almost like has to get a neck brace because their head snapped back 5 times already. I've used this before. John, thank you so very much. I could listen to you speak all night long. And for a few minutes there, I thought I was going to have to.
That's a good zinger that you can get away with.
It depends on the crowd. Anyway, I think we may be off topic.
You know Colin Klein's their OC now?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I keep him in that box. Just don't let him run that quarterback power on Saturday. He's still running it against us.
He's still running. What did he?
He
ran
gained 600 yards against us on that night game.
West Virginia's favored that game.
Were they?
They came in here and absolutely.
Colin Klein had. What year was that?
Well, 12. It was one of the first years in the league.
2012.
12. Check that out.
What was his nickname?
Excuse me?
He had a nickname. They called him something.
Colin Klein was his nickname, Brad.
It was something. Yeah, it was based off Terminator type thing.
Yeah, Collinator. Oh,
something. Put up 55.
Pretty good.
Man, they just ran that power stuff, and you couldn't stop it. And they just like, here, come here.
And they knew you couldn't stop it.
Boom.
Coach Snyder was on the sideline with a bowl jacket on.
You know, we have a huge listener,
Miss Coach Snyder.
Adam in Australia. Got a huge listener, Adam in Australia. This morning, I was limbering up, and I get a direct message on Twitter. Hey, if you're up yet, Gary Brown's playing right now. You can watch it on FanDuel TV.
Did you watch? Did you have time?
Didn't have
Busy
time.
in your stretching.
Heavy in a stretch, trying to get the hips loosened up.
You know, this surprises me. Colin Klein, it was 55-14. Colin Klein was 19 of 21 passing.
It was 19 of 21.
323 yards. Average Brad, 15 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. He rushed 12 times, 41 yards. I could have sworn he ran all over.
What did they run?
I would have thought it was reversed.
Yeah, me too.
I thought he ran for 341 yards.
But what did they run as a team?
How many touchdowns rushing did he have? Because I feel like I can picture him running into the hospital and end zone. Yeah.
4.
Right. He ran it. They pass it down the field, and then they just give it to him around the right side there to score.
By the way, Tyler Lockett had 9 catches for 194 yards.
Oh, I had trouble guarding him.
He's still running.
Wow.
He probably had a punt return, too, knowing him.
Wow.
We're doing text.
Yeah, we got a few.
I got a shout out too I want to give from my earlier event that I attended. So,
where were you?
Women's basketball game this morning.
Oh, is that why you have your WVU
That's
stuff?
why I have gear on.
So you went to the game?
Yeah, I did. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. local. 10 a.m. East. Tip off. Very good.
Nice.
Education day.
Sure.
Sat with Miss Fortney's third grade class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, you showed me
day.
the video. It looks like a lot of fun. Looks like great fun.
Can I do the shout out now since we're already doing it?
Do it.
Ran into listeners of the program before. There were like 4 people in the Coliseum. Immediately came right up. Joe and April Mock. You know them well.
Oh, the Mocks.
Hop.
Yeah.
They came up, said, 3 guys. Came right over and talked, introduced themselves. And as soon as he said him, Joe Mock, oh, absolutely, I know the name Joe. You will know Joe. Round Rock, Texas. They bring the donuts. As Joe reminded me when we met, bring the donuts. And I said, that's right. The donuts. The ones that Tony always eats and we never get them. Thank you, Joe.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. But it was
Joe
nice of
and
you to
April.
thank him.
Yeah, it was a good listener.
Yeah.
So I asked if a new episode would be coming. They're in town attending a bunch of West Virginia events this weekend. Yeah, Joe and April. Thanks for listening. Thanks for saying hi.
Joe's terrific.
Round Rock.
I do bring the donuts in. You know, you guys. Okay, fine.
I've never once had one of the donuts.
Really?
They never make it back.
Seriously, you've never? They've been up in the kitchen.
First I've heard of them.
Yeah. Pete from Pennsboro begins textual healing.
Is that his real name?
Chances are no. Just wanted to let you know that you guys are huge in Pennsboro. I believe you're only behind the police scanner in the ratings. Keep it up.
Not a bad
Funny
spot
guy.
to be.
Yeah. Funny guy, Pete. P.S. My Subway order is a Black Forest ham on Italian with white American cheese, lettuce, extra mayo, black pepper. If you made it in a combo, you take a couple of chips, add them as a topping to the sandwich, which I love.
In.
It sounds strange, but it's delicious and reminds me of being poor as hell as a student. That order will be burned in my brain forever because there used to be a really aggressive sandwich artist that my friends and I referred to as the Sandwich Nazi at the corner at Chestnut Ridge in Willowdale. Yeah, I know that facility. She would start yelling at you before you got both feet in the door. Love the show, Pete from Pennsboro. Yeah, I'm familiar with that facility there, and I used to frequent that a lot. Used to get the tuna sub there a lot. Used to get the tuna there.
I was a cold cut combo orderer in college, $3.14.
Wow, you remember the money.
$3.14.
Wow.
So we had it like 4 nights a week.
Texter Dan.
I'll get it done. Yeah.
Funny that you mentioned mortuary sciences on your last episode when picking on Hoppy. As a kid, watching him interview Coach Nealon on Mountaineer Magazine, he always reminded me of our local funeral home director. Glad to see that he does smile, laugh, and have a great sense of humor. I love the show. Signed, Dan. You did take those Mountaineer Magazine interviews a little too serious.
Yeah, well, I've been accused many times of being too serious.
That's why this show's been good for you, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Chance to relax and
I'm a
show
lot-
your true personality.
I'm a lot more fun than people think.
I know, but I think this forum has allowed that to come forth.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoy it.
Do you think there's a perception out there of you that you're not fun?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I just know you as I know you, so I've always known you to be fun. I have never known you.
You'd say I'm too serious.
But you also have a very good sense of humor. I mean, like all of us, when it gets real, you
gotta
tighten it
work.
up, but you also can be very, very
Well, thank you.
funny.
Told a couple funny stories today.
True.
Did you hear the one about there's 3 guys in an airplane and 2 parachutes?
I told a couple of funny stories.
There's a pope and a rabbi.
Ted in Warrenton, Virginia, also known as the train guy. Just a quick defense of TC, who is a fine texter. The guy owes me nothing, and he just recently helped me individually on an Austin barbecue recommendation. He earlier heard me out on a collective idea I had before they called them collectives, which I'm still going to do when the railroad thing calms down. I don't care if it's brown nosing. He's the best in the biz, and this show is too. Thank you all. Go Mountaineers. Yeah, so Ted wanted to know great barbecue place. I gave him that Valentina's outside of Austin and told him go with the brisket taco.
Oh, okay.
And he sent it back and said, dude, as good as I've ever had in my life.
Best in the world.
Best in the world.
Best in the world. You can get some good barbecue in Austin.
Oh, yeah. Texter, during the last show, you mentioned the success of WVU teams over the last weekend. How's about a shout-out to the 29th rated women's cross-country team? They finished second out of 29 teams in the Mid-Atlantic region. The Mountaineers received an automatic bid to the NCAA Nationals this Saturday in Stillwater, Oklahoma. The Mountaineers' top runner, Kaylee McCabe, took first place in the regionals for the second time. You got it, Michelle.
He's legit. Yeah, we talked about that on Sportsline one night. I think finished second to Georgetown.
Wow.
Who won that regional. So
congratulations.
Kaylee McCabe and the team.
Yeah. Well done.
Mitchell Morosi in Michigan by the way of Morgantown. Hey, gang, I may be overly worrisome, but I feel as if the program has started a regression. The starting quarterback that we brought in to have a 10-win season, who was clearly injured at 7.5, was swapped mid-game for Green, who, although brought much-needed energy, will not be the starter next week because of that stat and because teams will easily prepare for him. So now you have your savior quarterback's confidence at an all-time low, a fan base that will be furious at anybody but Green starting, and Marchiol, who is watching JT and the Lions situation, which will surely bring doubt to why he should stay. Will the next AD and coach have a better resume than Lions and Brown did when they were hired? And if both will be truly replaced by end of season, why should Marchiol stay? Mitchell, you got a lot on your mind there, buddy. I would tell you this. 4 deep breaths, nice walk. Everything always works itself out. Don't stress it.
Brad, you had a great comment this morning on my public affairs program about what the coaches should do in this situation. Please repeat.
Were you on his show?
I was.
Nice.
He was the lead.
Live from the Coliseum, no less.
Yeah.
You led at 10:06. You went with him?
I led with him this morning.
Oh, I bet you your little tight-ass news people got bummed out when they heard him on there, huh?
It was. Let me tell you something. Is there a bigger story in West Virginia right now than what is happening in the athletic department, the dismissal of Shane Lyons, the search for a new AD, the fate of the football program, the game coming up, and the fate of the coach and his staff? That, my friend, is a big story. It's not a one-day story. It's not a 2-day story.
Not in our world, there isn't. But you know, people. I bet you got some text. Did you get a text or two going like, "Why? What are you doing, Hoppy? Don't you know that?"
No, I always get those. But
yeah, I know. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, what you had asked about what happens or what does Neil Brown do with all of this swirling around him and thought, and he does what he has said he's told the players, and that's control the controllables, and all they can do is go out and prepare and hope that leads to good performances, right? Just go prepare. That's what they need to do. And I think he would take his own advice in that situation. Yeah. And I know that's difficult when people that you don't know and have never seen nor will you ever speak to are speculating nonstop about your future. But what the players have comfort in and the staff, that there's something to do, right? They're not just sitting around. Right. They're trying to prepare. They're trying to win a game. And I think that's all they do. They go out and they try and win this football game.
And typically they are very, I mean, it's a for coaches, players, it's a busy week, so you just stick to your schedule.
What do I do on Mondays? Okay, here's what I do. Here's what I do on Thursdays, and this is what I do. And there is some comfort in that. And
absolutely.
Listen, you've heard this a lot of times, and you hear it more from players after they've experienced something tragic in life. What do they say about why they played? A lot of times they'll get a question, "Oh my God, how'd you play in that game after that?" And what do they always say? That's the solace, right? That's the quiet. That's the comfort. That's what they're used to.
That's the known.
It's all the other stuff that sucks right now for all those people, right? They have been thrown into a huge pit of chaos because of the move about the AD. It creates more chaos and more hurdles. Their comfort is in the preparation of the game and on the practice fields.
And as long as they're at that building physically,
safe zone.
That's their cocoon. That's the cocoon.
That's your safe zone. But when you leave, when you go home, and it's natural, assistant coach, you go home and your wife says, "Are we going to get fired?"
Yeah.
That's when you...
And your kids are running up to you, and you're looking at your kids going, what do I say to them? They may have to come out of school. We may have to move. That's the real life, real stuff that exists that I know people don't think about or talk about, but that's real life. But when they're over in the football building and they have a game in front of them, that's the quiet moments where they can get their work done.
You know, we have Steve Dunlap on our broadcast, and whenever this comes up, Steve tells the story about, I forget, from one coaching job.
He was at Syracuse and had the opportunity to go to Clemson.
Oh yeah, and he tells his son,
picks his son up from school.
You tell the story.
Picks his son up from school and thinks he's delivering good news because they weren't necessarily loving the adjustment, moving from Morgantown to somewhere else, and says, "Hey, we might have an opportunity. Pack it up. We're leaving. We're moving." And his son said, "No."
Lost his mind.
His mind. Didn't want to leave. Yeah. Didn't want to leave.
Now, when we're just talking about coaches going to get fired or not, we don't talk about that. But that's the reality that they face.
That's
and Dunlap. He remembers that so clearly.
Correct. So it's a high-profile job. It's a fun job at times. You're rewarded handsomely.
Very well.
Financially now, you are really rewarded well, especially the head coach. But those are real-world things. I mean, they're going home to a family and kids that's lives have been thrown into chaos, that kids at school are asking the kids because they hear their parents saying Neil Brown's going to get fired, and there's kids at schools talking to the kids about that. That's hard, man. That's hard when your kid comes home and says, Daddy, are we losing our job? Are we going to have to move? That sucks, and that's hard. But that's the reality of the situation.
Or worse
for
yet,
them.
the kid comes up to the kid and says, your dad's going to get fired because you guys suck.
Well, that goes on.
That goes on.
That goes on.
That goes on, and unfortunately, it impacts the kids. It impacts the wives. But the reality of it is that's where this business has grown to.
Yeah.
More so than ever before because, again, of the dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get into this world, this has become more high risk for a higher reward. But that's the reality of it. And it's unfortunate, but that's what it is. That's what this job has become.
So your original question and the original point, I think Neil Brown would tell you if you asked him that question instead of me, he would say what he said about the players. Control the controllables. Let's go have a good performance and see what happens next. That's what we're doing.
Because you can't control the other stuff.
Can't.
Texter, I enjoyed Tony's impression of a jellyfish on the beach a few episodes ago. I don't remember doing that. Do you?
I don't know.
But the ongoing Bake Light phone segment is my highlight of the season. Bonus would be for anybody to take a shot at pronouncing its chemical name. So before I try to do that, what is a Bake Light phone?
I don't know.
I don't know. Then he writes what the chemical is that makes that. Is it the plastic on the phone?
I'll look.
Polyoxybenzyl methyl glycolanhydride. Steve, not Cal, in California, not California.
Oh, a Bakelite phone is old-timey phone. Like a rotary dial phone.
Like on our graphic?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes,
So he had
that's
a
a Bakelite phone.
There are a lot of words in this text. I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah. He said, P.S., the practice of using remote announcers is hot garbage, especially when they do it for basketball, which they still do. Yeah, it happens.
I don't know. I don't mind it. Kind of like it. I'm kind of okay with it.
Hey, guys, I love the show. I just want to say congratulations to my cousin, Oliver Straw, on his second Player of the Week. I also want to show some love to my Wayne County boys on the team. Keep up the great work. Hail, West Virginia, signed by Mason Straw, out in Wayne, West Virginia. Shout out to all the people in Wayne County. Just know when you go to bed tonight, put your head on that pillow, the three guys before the game loves Wayne County.
Oh, I see. He's not really his cousin. He just said cousin in quotes.
Because his name is Straw.
I got you.
Same last name. I talked to Oliver this week.
Did you?
Yeah. I'd
What'd he
never
say?
met him.
Oh, really?
I said, hey, man, how you doing? Hello, Tony. I loved it. I like
He's having
talking
a
to
good
that
year.
guy.
Did he know about your past troubles with the continent?
Had no idea.
No idea. Okay.
He had
Moved
no
on.
Thank goodness.
idea.
Whew, that was
Oh,
close.
thank goodness.
Yep.
International incident for
Yeah,
years.
he had no idea. I just played it off.
Okay.
President Biden's over there now trying to clean things up. G20 summit.
Is that where it is, Australia?
No, actually, they were in Bali.
Andrew in Pittsburgh writes, Scopes, spreads, Hoppy to the third, love the show. Longtime fan. I'm the grandson of longtime caller on Sportsline, Larry from Peterstown. Sure, remember Larry. One thing he and my father instilled in me was my fanhood. I know we have our issues with trust in Neil, but whether or not he comes back, we will still have glaring issues, especially quarterback. We have talent around the offense, but without consistency at quarterback, it does not matter. Is JT clear-cut QB1 next year when healthy, assuming that he's battling injury? Garrett gave us a spark, but is that the long-term answer? Is Nico going to be what we hope he is? Can we even keep C.J. Donaldson? No matter who's the coach, we won't be better if we don't have good answers to these questions. What do you guys think? Thanks.
I think you got to try to keep those guys, and I think coaches ought to earn their money and sort it out.
A lot of good questions.
Which
a lot
you
of good
can't
questions.
get, unanswerable.
Don't
at this
know if
moment.
JT's back, right? Staff changes could affect that. Don't know if Garrett Green's back. Don't know if CJ Donaldson's back. Don't know if Nico will return.
Don't know if anybody's.
So, Andrew, I don't know if we know any of that. But here's what you do know. As we've said many times, there will be more quarterbacks in the transfer portal this upcoming year than ever before in the history of the sport.
Really?
Well, yeah, because it was last year. So
Oh,
it will
okay.
be more this year, right? So that's just going to continue. So point being, they're different off-season conversations than there ever used to be, right? So whether it's Neil Brown or a new coach coming in, you better get in the portal and you better find a bunch of players, including a quarterback, if none of those return. And probably if all of them return, you're probably still in the portal looking for a quarterback as you did this offseason, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, thank you very much. And Larry was fantastic. All of your questions are justifiable. I understand your concern. Keep this in mind. Don't stress it. And you say, wait a second, don't you mean don't stress it? Don't. This has totally changed from what we used to know this to be. Keep this in mind. It's not like it used to be where, hey, this guy's coming back and this guy's coming back. Every year is a blank canvas, okay? So don't stress it because you just don't know until it finalizes itself. So don't think, oh, this to that means this to that. It's done. It's TBT basketball teams. It's TBT football teams. You put the team together, you play in the summer games at the TBT, this is the same thing.
You know, and it's everybody getting adjusted to the change. I mean, watching the Mountaineer basketball team the other night, I thought, hey, they got some guys there. That's got a couple of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, they look, I mean, I can't, as you would say, Brad, it's opponent adjusted, but they look better.
Look better.
There's no question there.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question. They're
And so
better.
I think that's the one thing. You know, football's such a more complicated sport, though. That's the challenge, right?
Absolutely,
so many more
yeah.
guys having to work in concert. But I do think what this illustrated, this basketball team through 3 games has illustrated the difference between having to play 18-year-old freshmen and 22-year-old dudes that have played 100 and some games. So moving forward in the portal, you wonder when that shows up on the football side, where it's even more important to have old guys versus young to continue to go out and mine those. It's just a different game. It's a different game when they're older guys.
Yeah.
It just is.
I think this in regard to NIL, I think dollars will be spent more wisely as time goes on. I think coaches will look, just to Brad's point, who was the most impactful players in programs last year? Well, they came out of this type of a scenario. They were at this level of a program, and they had played X number of games, and they produced these numbers. How does that prorate out to our level? Well, these are the kind of guys. I mean, there's stat software that we've talked about before in basketball. Coaches can put in, I need a 6'7" wing that rebounds at a rate of X and scores at a rate of X and has the ability to score on 2-point baskets inside the lane Y. You put that into the database.
And he's played 73 games or more.
He played more than 75 games. And you hit search,
Moneyball.
And it goes, here's the players. That exists. That's going to exist in football. And then you will take that data and you will go, Hoppy Kercheval fits this build. We should pay him X number of dollars in NIL money to get him. That's how this is going to work. That's how it's kind of getting to work now. You'll get more and more and more sophisticated. We are getting to a point where we have these titles now of player personnel director. That's an NFL term. That's a basketball term. You're getting that in colleges. You're going to identify, you're going to go seek after, you're going to pay him, you're going to buy him, you're going to bring him in here, and he's going to play.
Yeah, so the era of analytics is upon us, and I know most people think about that with some chart that's running around what you do on 4th down. The world of analytics extends over into the personnel department, and it might even be more valuable in personnel departments than it has been on the field.
Absolutely. Hey, gentlemen, thanks for checking out my son and I's picture on the last show. He had a blast at his first football game. That was the gentleman we had with his son.
Oh, yeah.
Remember his dad and son there? Yep. This is interesting. On the long way home, though, so he's in Florida. He drove back to Tampa.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
On the long way home, though, I did not have a great time. You see, I thought it would be a good idea to play 3 Guys Roulette, where you scroll through old episodes at random. It was a rough night. Not because of you guys, but the subject matter. For instance, first up came the post-Minnesota Bowl game episode.
Ouch.
Hurtful with shades of PTSD, but I pushed through. Second, couldn't be that bad, right? Wrong, worse. The blown 31-14 lead against Oklahoma State a couple years ago. So the third time's got to be a charm. Wrong again. It was a fall camp episode simply entitled Disappointment 101.
Wow.
No Kurlavich to keep me company. No, sir. Just a parade of clown show horrors and me, the grand marshal of sadistic clowns. Thanks for all the great shows, guys, even the painful ones. God bless. P1 listener, P2 texter, Philip in Tampa.
Got to start stacking some wins here, Kercheval. Stack some wins so we don't have as many of those episodes.
Exactly. I forgot we had that many depressing
win some
episodes.
Games. Win some games.
Win games.
Texter, JD, identifying from the southern coal fields. If any of you three were hired as the new athletic director, how would the early signing period affect your decision to keep Neil Brown or not? The early signing period starts 21 December, ends 23, and it doesn't seem feasible to fire a coach and have a new coach in place by the 21st. My thought is you give Brown another year because you really don't have a choice, given the recruiting calendar. Then you make a decision midway through next season. Feels to me like the decision to let Lions go this late in the season has really hamstrung the new AD on his ability to make a decision on Brown this year. Boys, topic is timing. What's your takeaway?
Mine is I would keep Brown. Obviously, you're not going to extend his contract. I thought when he came in, it was a 5-year plan. I don't think we're the school that wants to get somebody after 3 years or 4 years when you've had COVID, NIL, transfer, all these changes. He checked so many boxes. He's had good recruiting. I'm all in for a 5th year.
It's a tricky decision on this early signing period, isn't it? I've always thought that was a weird thing, and this is a longer conversation. I'll try and be brief, but the freeing up of the transfer portal certainly speaks to this right here, because it used to be you would see assistant coach movement after signing day, after you got guys to sign. That's a tough way to do business, Hop.
Yeah.
But I do think that comes up, and yeah, I think it will absolutely factor in, because it factors in. Recruiting is everything here. It will factor in.
P1, Jason in Mobile, Alabama. Am I the only person outraged at the decision to out Shane Lyons? I don't hear anyone being critical. He's accomplished so much for West Virginia. Sure, Neil Brown hasn't been all we hoped for, but Neil really did check every single box coming in. I was confident that if Neil didn't work out, that Shane would get it right. Personally, I feel like the media should be slamming the board and the school for making decisions. We were blessed to have Shane, and he will be missed. My point being, what did the program gain over the past few days with these decisions? A win to cool down Brown's hot seat at the expense of a soon-to-be confused quarterback roster and fan base, and chaos in a program that desperately needs to retain its young talent.
Well, all you have so far, and I've reached out to Shane Lyons to come on my public affairs program, and he said that not yet, but he may come on at some point because he's just not ready, and also they're negotiating a separation agreement. I don't think he wants to say anything until they get that finalized. So that's number one. So we don't know his side of the story. Number two is all you have then is WVU's side, which says they want to go in a different direction. There are hints that they didn't feel necessarily that Lyons was working as closely as he could with the NIL organizations. I mean, that's out there. And the coach, and Brad, as you've talked about, I mean, the coach that he hired, even though everybody signed off on it, is not winning. So that's all you have is what they've said about that. And as for it's sad, tragic when somebody that everybody likes and believes did a good job gets fired, essentially. But you know what happens? Life goes on. And I hate to say that, but I think Shane knows that too. And it's a big shock when it happens. There's follow-up the next day. And then what's the story now? What about the search? Who's going to get hired? And that's the nature of things. So there's a natural progression where you just simply move on. And that is what happens, and that's what will happen.
I will say this again, and I've said it multiple times on this program and others. The shock for me, or the surprise for me, was there are ADs all over this country that get an opportunity to hire more than one unsuccessful coach. You see it all the time. Unless something really egregious has happened, not just wins or losses, you generally see an AD get a second crack at hiring. And I still contend this is the primary, if not the majority, reason they have moved on. Dissatisfaction in the football program. You can say all that other stuff. That's what this comes down to. It's also surprising, given he was just awarded an extension in this calendar year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Was it January?
January.
Was just extended a contract extension and lauded for his work. So I do think that the texter can make those questions and ask those questions. The timing does seem a little bit odd, especially given an extension here so recently.
Sean in Washington State, he'll see the Mountaineers coming up soon. 3 guys, Trey Mitchell makes the game look easy. But Mo Wagee has been incredible. Mm-hmm. What is Mo and the team's ceilings? Thank you, Sean in Washington State.
I tell you, Trey Mitchell did some things the other night, like, Pretty good.
You know what you call him, Hoppy?
What, a player?
He's pretty good.
He's a player.
He's pretty good player.
He's a player.
He stole the ball, drove down, slammed it.
Yeah, he's a player.
That's 6'9". He's a pro.
Is he a pro?
He's a pro. Be it NBA or overseas. Yeah.
You know, and again,
he's getting paid to play.
I had not watched it, but Toussaint, the dogged defense that Toussaint plays.
Yeah.
That seems Huggins-esque.
Mo McGee, we've talked to him about a bunch on this show in Three Guys. I mean, he to me has been the biggest surprise of this. I like him a lot, Tony. I think he's added a ton to this team.
He's a nice kid.
Oh,
nice. You'd like him. We need to get him on here. These guys want to come on. I mean, Emmett Matthews, he come on anytime. Eric Stevenson wants to come on. Mo McGee. Do we have any money in our NIL? Do we have a Three Guys NIL fund?
Oh, well, once the beer sales get rolling, I think we'll be rolling in money. We'll be able to do whatever we want.
It's only split 2 ways now instead of 3. Did I see him talking trash to the opponent's bench?
Yes, you did. Wait, you know what the story on that is, Hoppy?
What?
That's not a story. I mean, that's just a regular day.
So I thought, is he talking to the opposing bench?
Yeah.
Which I kind of like.
When he's on your team, I like it. Like
right
a little
now,
edge to there, like a little edge.
I don't know if the thing will turn to be a negative, but right now he's exactly what this team needed to get its swagger back. Because last year's team had no, as Bill Rafferty would say, they had no onions. You got to have some onions, right? You got to have your Cam Thurman. You got to have your crap stirrer. And he is. Now, you got to do that judiciously. It can't become a negative. You have to do it like salt. You got to be judicious with it. He'll give this team a little something to get them going, because you're going to need that, because we're going to go on the road.
Sometimes, though, throughout sports, the great talkers aren't very good at the salt sprinkle. It's kind of on or it's off.
It's more like a.
We'll see. We'll see. But real quick, his game, though, I've said this many times, he looks like a guy that's been overseas for 3 years and came back and is playing.
He knows how to play.
Knows how to play.
Swings it. Yeah.
He knows how to play.
Addition. Absolutely.
CL in Clarksburg writes, I finally found time to visit Fine Fitting Phil at Daniels.
Nice.
So I could upgrade my wardrobe. He was as advertised, knowledgeable, personable, and helpful. I looked for the senator folding clothes in some recesses of the store, but Phil said he had already come and gone.
Off the shift, clocked out already, Kirchville. Went in the back, punched
Sorry I missed him, but I got to meet fine-fitting Phil.
Hit my quota, sold those pair of pants, said thank you, take my commission, I'll be gone now.
I can't wait to see you back there in the back.
Well, it's not in the back.
I don't
go in the back and fold.
I've seen him in the window where the display is in there.
I am oftentimes in the window. I'll be up there. I'll be in the front. I'm not going in the back. Huh?
You working the mannequin?
Heavy mannequin usage. Dressed took it apart last week. Had to change an outfit out, put something else. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all the pretty pictures.
Not over there just taking up space, Kirchville. Got to work.
We should tell people, all the pretty pictures that you see on social, that's what Brad does. That's his social account, so that's what he does. He's in there taking pictures.
I'm going to get you one of those tapes, put around your neck. Will you wear it if I get one for you?
I'd wear it. Texter, Emmett Matthews 2.0. I just want to highlight how awesome it is to see Emmett 2.0 at WVU. Noticeably more mature and a true leader of the team. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. Totally agree.
I did see him coaching somebody up there during a timeout. I was saying, get your arms up. I mean, he's
looked really good.
Emmett's terrific.
Looked really good since he's returned.
Three guys. Jeff from Edwards, California. Random emotions and thoughts from a lifelong Mountaineer. Random thought 1. Saturday's game brought me back the same emotions I felt watching 2018 Texas, 2012 Baylor, 2005 Louisville, 2003 Pitt, and 2001 Rutgers. Number 2.
Rutgers reference.
Number 2. I miss Mountaineer Magazine. That's a
second reference on the
second Mountaineer Magazine reference.
Was a great show.
Yeah.
Well produced.
They put a lot of work in that.
Yeah.
They really did. Number 3.
Mountaineer Magazine.
Did you used to get free food when they would record Mountaineer Magazine?
I did, because I would order it, so I would always make sure
He'd go over to the studio.
Back
eat
in my
free
single days, Kirchville there, so I always make sure, how can I get an extra meal out of this? I'd love to help out ordering the food here. I'll talk to one of our sponsors. We'll get this taken care of. So I always go down there and hang out and eat.
Point 3, Trey Mitchell is going to be special this year for the Mountaineers. Point 4, Reese Cups Original for the best candy. Point 5, I'm excited to see West Virginia play K-State. I foresee a W. Stephen from Eleanor. Hello, fellas. Bet you've not heard this name for a while. I'm in Savannah, Georgia for a conference. Strike up a conversation from a lady, lives in Jupiter, Florida. I mentioned where I was from and attending West Virginia, Oklahoma game. She then tells me her friend's a high school football coach and had a quarterback that went to West Virginia but never got to play. His name was Danny Embick. I quickly jumped in and said, oh, ma'am, he did play. Threw a critical pass to Rasheed Marshall from the wide receiver position to beat Pitt in 0-2 at Heinz Field. She looked at me like the spaz I am and quickly ended the conversation. There's always a connection. I didn't remember that.
I don't either.
That's who threw the pass to Rasheed.
I remember it now.
Yeah, I remember the play. Yeah.
Do you have
I remember
Danny
one
Embick
time
on your bingo card?
No, I remember one time we had a Pitt loss with Rich at Pitt, close game, and we threw a ball late in the game to a receiver that had no reason to be thrown the ball. I forget who it was. Anyway, scarred. P1 Jason in Dallas. Oh, our boys here. P1 Jason in Dallas. Hey, guys, hope the Senator didn't have West Virginia minus 19 Tuesday. Question for the El Senador.
I did say they went off at 18.5.
I know
it was right there. By the way, team total was 76.5, landed 75, 4 empty trips to end the game without a basket.
The last two Mountaineer games, the line, both at home, they've been flirting with the line right at the end of the game. Right at the end of the game, it's just like one possession. Like people think the game's I'm going like, yeah, this is going to mean something for somebody.
Yeah, because Pitt was a no-brainer. Lined up, beat him.
Question for the Senator. Is there a stat that describes the quality of rebounding for a team, contested versus uncontested boards? In other words, 50-50 balls. If so, where do the top teams come in for that category? And if not, maybe some West Virginia assistants could effort that. Some general thoughts. Kobe Johnson's release is hard to watch. I mean, if it goes in, then it goes in. And shooting's only one part of the game. But that thing makes Joakim Noah's jump shot look like Ray Allen's. Also, I really like Mohamed Wagee. He seems like a little bit Jermaine Haley, a little bit Gabe O'Saboyne, and a little bit Brandon Watkins. Brandon Watkins, shout out. Over or under 1.2 million moving screens called before the end of the year. Yeah, we're trending over. Hey, guys, first, maybe I'm off a bit, but Trey Mitchell reminds me of Devin Ebanks. Secondly, how the heck did more programs not see what Huggs saw in Mo Wagee? Mitchell may be the best player we have, but Wagee has unreal potential. Charles in Wyoming. Texter Chuck from Lumberport. I know we have some work to do in hoops. It was exciting to see the ball go in. What is the wingspan of our man Wagee? So Mo's getting a lot of love.
A lot of love, as well he should.
Yeah,
should.
He got long arms.
Have you noticed a more a happier tone in the texts after the win against Oklahoma, and the win against whoever they played the other night?
Well, that's true. It was Monday night, but you also had coming off the Pitt win. Yeah, basketball's winning. Sure, it's nice.
Women's soccer winning, cross country winning,
still winning.
Women's basketball,
doggone dynasty. Hey, three guys, we were at the basketball game and we spent some time in Club 35.
Ooh.
What's that?
It's a brand new club behind the basket.
It is nice.
Club 35?
Elite.
Oh, big donor get in there?
Big donor. And
have a cold beverage?
You can get whatever you want in that thing.
Where is it?
Behind the basket, behind the Mountaineer bench, behind the basket.
Been a weight room down there most recently?
Yeah.
So it's Club 35. Huggs' number was 35.
Understood.
Club 35, and there's a stool etched in the glass on the door when you go in. It's gorgeous.
Oh, that's nice.
I have not. They showed it to me before the season started. I do not have the credentials to get in there.
Really?
Oh, no.
You can't get in there?
Oh, no.
You?
Oh, no. This is the elite of the elitist level of donor.
Yeah, but you're Tony Caridi.
But it doesn't matter. I'm not going in there and just saying I'm Tony Caridi. I'm not going in. But anyway, it's awesome. They took the floor from the old field house, and they used that for the walls.
That's great.
It's beautiful. It really is nice. Anyway, he says, as we walked behind Tony and Huggs pregame, my 11-year-old son said, this is so cool to be right behind a Hall of Famer. I told him there were actually 2 Hall of Famers. The star power was awesome. Love y'all sign. The Delta mechanic from Talmo, Georgia, by way of Grafton. So he fixes those airplanes for Delta down there in Georgia.
Yeah. Just Hall of Fame everywhere. Huggins, you.
Yeah. What would have been greatest if he would have said this. As we walked behind, my son said, it's so cool to be behind a Hall of Famer. And the dad should have said, You know, Hugs is in the Hall of Fame, too. Texter, Brent Venables is 0-3 against West Virginia. The Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and this year.
That's a good point.
He wasn't the DC at the Orange Bowl.
He was fired.
No.
Oh, at Clemson.
Clemson.
They
fired
came after.
and brought him in.
They
to clean it
fired
up.
the
That's
DC.
right. Yeah, good point.
He's the reason he became.
Yes,
I mean, that's
exactly
the reason he
right.
became the DC.
Exactly right. Hey, three guys. I 100% agree with the notion that West Virginia fans should treat Shane with grace. I believe the animosity comes from the fact that fans and season ticket holders are constantly asked to pay increased prices, donations, and sent emails for donations. But when it's all said and done, there could be around $20 million paid to people for them not to come to work. This is being reported to fans in a year where many have investments in their 401ks take a huge hit. A lot of us to be able to compartmentalize these things, but many are not. P.S., in each of the three of you, if you had to find a job outside of sports or journalism, what would it be? P.P.S., the senator is not allowed to say real estate. Signed by Pete in Pennsboro. Hoppy, if you weren't in this world of journalism, sports, whatever it is, have you ever given it thought?
I think probably NFL coach, head coach.
Hey.
No, that's a good. I mean, seriously, that's a good question. Probably something where I had a lot of interaction with people. A greeter,
Retail type job.
yeah, retail. Probably a greeter somewhere because of my personality and how I'm out among the public a lot. Brad, how about you?
I apparently have one over at Daniel's part time.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know that I can answer it. In my whole professional career, it's been sports related. So that's all I've ever done. Yeah. Worked for insurance for a short time growing up.
Excuse me?
Worked in insurance.
Excuse me?
Was being heavily recruited to be an insurance agent. You've talked about insurance agents on the show.
Boy, did you screw
Probably
up.
made a bad decision.
Boy, did you screw up.
Yeah.
I know what
Dude.
Tony's would be.
What would it
You'd
be?
be a chef.
No, you can't make enough money.
Plus, you work all the time. Well, you work all the time now, but I mean, you're.
Yeah, you don't make enough money in the poor restaurant business. You
Oh, it's
can't
tough.
really
You
can't do it. I think I would be something in business, something in negotiation, something in wheeling and dealing. I'm liking this. I think this auction thing's pretty neat.
Excuse me?
I think that auction world is pretty neat.
You'd like to be in the auction world?
An auctioneer.
You'd like to be an auctioneer?
Hell yeah.
Well, you're a performer. You'd be very good
Yeah.
at that.
Do you know
There's
what
a lot of work, though, before you get to the actual auction itself.
You just don't walk up on the stage and say,
No,
hit it.
There's a lot of logistics involved
Yeah,
before,
that's
and you
not-
don't like logistics
That's
usually.
not my gift
Yeah.
zone. Well, could we have people do
The
that?
on-stage part of it would be
Yes.
right in your wheelhouse.
That's what I'd like.
The logistical part, you'd have to manage that well.
Nah.
If you want to do the external stuff, you better hire well for the internal
Yeah.
stuff.
Can you get people to do
Yeah,
that?
you could do that. Yeah, you could hire people to do that.
Can I just go up on the stage and do the thing?
If you structure it right,
But, I
yeah.
mean,
it's going to cut into your profits because you're going to have to
Yeah.
hire more people to do that other
I
stuff.
understand
Typically,
that.
The auctioneer is not just the auctioneer. I mean, he or she has staff that you got to get all the stuff organized and move.
Well, you gotta have
sometimes move it somewhere.
Yeah, well, you got to have the hay people. You got to have the hay people.
What's that?
Well, those are the people that stand around in the back of the auction. They go, hey! Hey!
When the bids come up, because they're pointing out where the bids are.
Yeah, exactly. They're in the back. Hey! And you go, okay. You got to have the hay people.
You also got to have the mom back people.
Yeah. Mom back.
Mom back.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd like to do.
Noted. Surprised, but noted.
Hey, three guys, what are your guys' thoughts about Pat McAfee doing the Texas hype video? Should it bother West Virginia fans?
No, he's got a brand. He's doing
You
his
seen
thing.
it?
I don't know what that
I don't know
is.
what you're talking about.
He picked West Virginia against Oklahoma.
Oh, did he really?
Didn't he, Brad? Didn't we see that?
Did Pat take West
I
Virginia?
don't remember.
Oh, I might be thinking of something else.
I don't know.
Never mind.
Pat's a West Virginia guy. I got no questions about his loyalty.
My
Right?
gosh.
But I didn't see the Texas hype video. I don't know that.
Just because you went to West Virginia does not mean that you can't branch out and do other things. I think Pat has displayed that well, right? You know where Pat's heart is. Scope, spread, subs. I'm trying to figure out the true eligibility of the basketball players due to COVID.
Good luck. Good luck. Let me know if you figure it out.
Yeah.
This, okay, fine. I think Keedy, Emmett, and Stevenson are done after this year, right? That's correct. That is correct. I do know that. Toussaint, Trey, and Bell are listed as seniors per the roster, but not fifth year. Can they get one more year after the season if they choose? I think the answer is yes. Sumnick and Mo are listed as sophomores, so I'm guessing they only have 2 more years after this year because they may not get a COVID year. I think Mo has 3.
Jeez.
Very fluid.
Thanks for the insight, and even more for the entertainment you provide.
Can you come back and say, like, I haven't used my COVID year? I haven't used my red shirt. I haven't used my medical red shirt. I'm transferring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think Joe Toussaint does have an additional year after this one. I do think so.
But this is his 5th?
I've given up trying to analyze that area of the
So, like, I do the games with Jay, obviously, Jay Jacobs. And so, like, he's already, like, it's the second game of the season, and he's already talking, like, well, so-and-so can come back. And I'm thinking about, why don't we let him sweat, like, for 3-4 games this year before we talk about, like, next year? But I do think that Toussaint could come back.
Or play someplace else.
If he's got a year or transfer to another school.
And this is not even to enter into the conversation, the Manhattan Transfer Project.
Oh, it's became official today. He's enrolled.
Yeah, I know. I talked to him the other night. That's what he told
I'm just
me.
saying they released today that the Manhattan Transfer is enrolled.
Now, I don't know if that, listen.
Were you hanging on that announcement to make sure he was eligible? Okay, of course he is.
Wait a second. How
is he enrolled? Nah, who cares? Is he playing?
So, did Taylor not give us, like, why wouldn't, Taylor's normally on top of that for us.
I got the release this morning.
You got the release?
Yeah.
It came from Messerly?
Yes. Let me find it.
Oh, yeah, there it is, Perez, 1107. Mountaineer basketball coach Bob Huggins has announced that Jose Perez has enrolled for the upcoming spring semester.
Right.
Wait. Here's the best part. Here's the best part. Second graph. His eligibility status for games and practices will be determined at a later date.
Yeah, right. We're reading this release like it's 2018, back in the old days.
Will be reviewed thoroughly.
What's the Bears say here? Jose certainly gives us more firepower for our team. He's a guy who can score the ball at different levels. He shoots the ball well. He drives it well, and he scores it close. He's another experienced guy who's played a lot of basketball. We think he'll be a great fit.
Glad to see a young man enrolled.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness,
becoming ingrained in campus activities.
Campus meeting later this evening.
I'm quite fascinated by it all. I've said this on the last
Royal
show.
Mountaineer.
I'm quite fascinated by it.
Oh, it's
that. Again, I mean, it's an absolute line change in a hockey game.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
here's the thing. As much as we have talked about Silvio De Sousa showing up on a random Tuesday after playing in a high school game and having a double-double against West, I am giddy West Virginia's in the mix now with a weird situation where a guy was somewhere else last Tuesday.
They were just ahead of their time.
Yeah, they were ahead of their time.
And you know what the karma is on this one?
Yeah.
You know what the karma is on this one?
What?
Big 12 tournament. We say him. You don't know when you see him. Hopefully you see him later in the tournament.
Yep.
And our boy, Perez, who has still yet to put the uniform on, he hits the game winner.
He is enrolled.
On a crazy, stupid, spinning bank shot that rolls around the rim and hits the bottom of the net at the horn. And you go like, sup, man? De Sousa.
Yeah.
De Sousa.
Yeah.
You had that one coming to you.
He is 36.
Now, the part about that is Kansas looks a little bit frightening after what you saw against them against the Dukies the other night. It's amazing.
So is Texas. Texas had a nice win last night over
Texas had a
Gonzaga.
great win.
Over Big 12 member Gonzaga.
So, Hoppy.
Yes, sir.
Based upon Ken Pomeroy, as of last night's Texas victory, if you were to project out to next year, the Big 12 would have 5 of the top 8 teams in the country.
Really?
The win for Texas put them to 1. You got Baylor, you got Kansas, you got Houston, and who am I missing?
Gonzaga.
and Gonzaga. Oh, yeah, we've added Gonzaga. We've added Gonzaga. By the way, and I know Hoppy's got to run because he got this very detailed, comprehensive speech he has to give. But
is Gonzaga sort of like Costa Rica is to the – I'm not Costa Rica, but Puerto Rico is to the U.S.?
Yeah, it's Puerto Rico.
I mean, they're part of the U.S., but they're not really part of the U.S.
But how about this? Remember when I came back from the trip to – who did we play last on the road? Anyway, we had a road game recently, and someone took me aside and said, hey, that Gonzaga thing, that ain't happening. That's just a bunch of smoke by Gonzaga. I went, okay, so I came here, dutifully reported that. Said, hey, I'm just hearing that smoke from a distant fire. Good song, too. Yeah. Last night, our boy Brett McMurphy, who gave you attribution earlier this week on your story.
First reported.
Appreciate it.
And Brett's a good dude. Brett's a journalist. Brett's a good dude. He said, there is more than smoke.
Really?
Gonzaga's
back on the
He said that
burner?
He said Gonzaga met with the Big 12 yesterday for that game in Austin.
In Texas, no less. They're
When
meeting
they met,
with Gonzaga about conference expansion in
and
Texas,
he said,
which I got to get
in essence, he said
Okay.
there is credence to that, and that could happen. It could
So
happen. What did he say? I'll read the exact thing. Brett texts a lot, so I'm going to have to
I got to go.
settle down.
Churchill's getting tight here. He does have to go.
You're walking to the conference room. You can
Maybe I have to make a stop before then.
Yeah.
You walk into that conference room and you speak to those group of people, and you know what you walk in and you say?
What?
Do you know who I am? Anyway, he said this.
I'm Tony Caridi.
Big 12 commish Brett Yormark and Gonzaga AD Chris Standerford met earlier today in Austin, and there is, quote, growing mutual interest regarding Gonzaga joining the Big 12, sources told the Action Network.
Back on.
It's back on.
Back on.
It's like a junior high boyfriend, girlfriend.
So weird.
Yeah, I'm not dating him anymore. Well, we might go
That
out
was in
again.
second period. Fifth period, you're dating again.
All right, we're out. 3 guys before the game. Go cash in on your $500 off at Burdette Camping Center because the Mountaineers have won 2 this week already.
You did say it was a lock.
Lock.
3 guys before the game brought to us by Burdette Camping, the only warranty forever RV dealer in West Virginia. You buy a vehicle from them and the warranty lasts forever. BurdettCamping.com. And by Comax Business Systems, your full-service Konica Minolta dealer. Go to Comax Business Systems at ComaxWV.com. We're back on Monday to recap the weekend's activities. Our producer, Taylor County Kennedy, will be joining us then as well. For Hoppy and the Dean and the Senator and everyone else's 5 nicknames, we'll see you.